What's up? Tyler from Plugged On. I'm here with an album review. This time I'm going to talk about the new album from All That Remains, entitled Victim of the New Disease. This came out November 9th, and this is their 9th album, the follow-up to Madness from 2017. All That Remains is a metalcore band. They've been around since 2002 was when their debut was, and they've had an interesting career. You know, they some of their early records are some of the best metalcore albums, I think, out there, especially The Fall of Ideals, I think is the one people will point to. And then they've, gained a lot of commercial success with albums such as Overcome and For We Are Many and a War You Cannot Win. And so they've had some interesting stuff going on. I, for one, have not enjoyed any of their past three albums at all. And so interesting what's coming out of this. And they released the first single, Fuck Love, and I was like, wow, All That Remains getting back to some heavier stuff. This got to be a one-off for this album, right? Like, it's not a bad song. It's got some balls to it that All That Remains hasn't really had the past few albums. They went more of a rock and more radio and more accessible direction, you could say. And so I was, not a bad song, and honestly, it's a pretty catchy song. I enjoy the ending of that song when it just gets really heavy, and Phil Labonte sounds pretty good in that as well. But then, the whole album shocks me and is honestly fantastic. And it's something that I'll get to later that's quite unfortunate, but I never thought I'd say that about an All That Remains album again. I thought they were just going in this direction. This is where they were heading, and there was no kind of going backwards. Is this a Fall of Ideals or This Darkened Heart? No. I wouldn't even say it's as good as Overcome or, quite honestly, For We Are Many to me. But does it have some solid songs on it? Absolutely. And what it brings back is just the overall energy and heaviness that All That Remains had. And I'm not saying they need to be all outright heavy, because there's some songs on here where they're not, and I actually enjoy them. It's just that I felt like, especially their past three albums, like a lot of the songs just, to me, personally, I know they've had some hits off those albums, they don't have that spark to them, and it has nothing to do whether it's heavy or not. It just does not click with me songwriting-wise. Honestly, Phil Labonte, big reason for that. I just have not enjoyed his performance to the past few albums. This album, I'm all over it. I think he sounds fantastic on most of these songs. Everything's Wrong and Alone in the Darkness are two songs. I Meant What I Said is another one where it takes some heavier aspects, the more melodic aspects that All That Remains has had, and mixes it with a more radio sound, and especially Everything's Wrong. That's a pretty catchy song. I like the guitar that's going on in the chorus, and it'll get stuck in your head. Alone in the Darkness is a slower song that I really enjoy. I think it's absolutely well done. It reminds me of something, maybe off of Overcome, some of the slower songs off of that record, and Phil sounds really great on that track. He really does. Then you have Just Tell Me Something, which I can definitely see them trying to do a radio push with this song. And I don't think it's a bad song, personally. I like it more than a lot of the slower songs off of their past few albums. It's not the highlighted album for me, but it also has Danny Worsnop, singer of Asking Alexandria, on it. I think he sounds good too. I mean, God, whether you like Asking Alexandria or not, he has a fine voice. And him and Phil going together, not a bad pairing, honestly. It's not a bad song. And then, as I was listening to this the first time the other day, Everything's Wrong came on. That's a track they released. Unfortunately, that song came out the same day that Ollie Herbert passed away, which I'll get to that in a second. But then I'm like, okay, these two songs they put out ahead of time, they were good. It's got to be a fluke. And then Blood I Spill comes on, and it's not the best song on the album, but I'm like, it's got something to it, Then Wasteland comes on. Wasteland is heavy. Wasteland is the heaviest track on this album, in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoy that one in the chorus. And in Misery in Me, Broken, the title track, fine tracks. I wouldn't say some of these songs, I would say I meant what I said, has some very strange stuff, and also the Phil Labonte auto-tune. Nah, just throw that away. Nobody ever needs auto-tune. Well, let me back up. I know a lot of bands use it, but not in that way. I hate when it sounds exactly like they did there. Just no. Yeah. Anyways, Ollie Herbert. Unfortunately, he passed away. And it actually just came out today as I'm recording this that he died from drowning in taking some antidepressant and sleeping aid medication that apparently did not work well with him at all. And so that's incredibly sad. His death is incredibly sad. The dude wrote so many fucking killer riffs and guitar solos. And to me, I think he's part of the, if not the biggest reason why All That Remains got to where they are, because those songs just jam. Some of those early tracks that really hook people in off of, This Darkened Heart, Overcome. You think of 2 Weeks, their biggest single. To me, it's that riff. I mean, Phil's vocals have a good hook to him, but it's the riffage in that song that's fucking awesome. And he's had so many fantastic guitar solos. His performance on here is great. There's some awesome riffs, some chunky sounds and rhythms, and just killer solos. The solo in Misery in Me is one of my favorites off of this album. I think it's just fantastically written. It's certainly a shame what has happened, but he with this album, it's more of a return to form for All That Remains, and I think it's a record that could make a lot of their fans happy, make a lot of lapsed fans, you could say, potentially jump back in, just give them another shot. It's a record where you go, okay, maybe All That Remains isn't done. In a way, done isn't really the right word, but I know they went in a much different direction. They found success that way, but for the metal crowd, the more the crowd that loves those early albums, it's like, okay, they can still do that. And I never thought I'd say that. I never thought that they would go back to this sort of style. And like I say, it's not their best album, but it's one that I'm enjoying listening to and listening to over and over again, where I feel the past 3 albums specifically I've not been able to do that at all. Anyways, rest in peace, Ollie Herbert, and I'm going to give this album an 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think of Victim of the New Disease from All That Remains. I think it's a fine album for sure, and yeah, see you.